Thank you for waiting. Here's Channel 1. This is Thematic Session 3 by Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES session. Session title is Voluntary Local Review, VLR of the SDGs, Accelerating Transformation of Cities. Now, I'd like to introduce speakers. Dr. Takeuchi Kazuhiko, President, Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. Dr. Bernardia Irawati Chandodehi, Secretary General, United States and Local Governments, Asia Pacific. Mr. Samiadi Ahmado, Regional Sustainable Development Consultant, Environment and Development Division, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Mr. Datuk Zamani Ahmado Manso, Mayor, Shah Alam City Council. Ms. Ani Shazlin Binti Ismail, Senior Assistant Director, Shah Alam City Council. Mr. Miyasato Jun, Assistant Director to the Councillor, Office for Promoting of Overcoming Population Decline and Vitalizing Local Economy in Japan. Dr. Anthony F. Pieper, Senior Fellow, Global Economy and Development, Center for Sustainable Development, Brookings Institutions. Mr. Akauka Ken, Executive Officer for Global Partnership and Network, Office of the City of Yokohama, Representative of the Americas. Now we are about to start Thematic Session 3, and the moderator is Ms. Kataoka Yatsuka. Ms. Kataoka, please start the session.
Okay, thank you very much. So good morning and good everybody, good afternoon everybody. I would like to start the session on the Voluntary Local Review of the SDG, Accelerating Transformation of Cities. So in the beginning of this session, I would like to ask Professor Kazuhiko Takeuchi, President of Institute for Global Environment Strategies, to have a welcome remark. So Mr. Takeuchi.
Thank you, Kataoka-san. Distinguished guests and all participants, a very warm welcome to this session focuses on Voluntary Local Review, or VLR, at the 10th Smart City Conference. The Institute for Global Environment Strategies, IGES, is honored to be organized in this session with the city of Yokohama, one of the leading cities tackling sustainability challenges, both in Japan and overseas. To start the session, let me explain a little bit about VLR. VLR is a process for a city to conduct a review and report on its progress for SDG localization. The VLR also includes a plan for future actions to accelerate the delivery of the 2030 agenda at the local level. In 2018, the first voluntary local review was conducted and presented at the UN High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, HLPF, by New York City and 3 Japanese municipalities, namely the city of Kitakyushu, the city of Toyama, and Shimokawa town. Since 2018, the VLR movement has been growing in importance on the international arena. More than 70 subnational governments have already conducted their VLR. The ministerial declaration at the HLPF 2021 also mentioned that VLR would serve as a useful tool to show progress and foster exchange in local implementation of the 2030 agenda and the sustainable development goals. The VLR is not just a framework to monitor and report the progress of the SDGs, it also a supporting tool for better and smarter city planning to address local sustainability issues. I just conducted interviews with those cities that conducted the VLR, and we found that the VLR brought a wide range of benefit to those cities. For example, the VLR could create opportunity to advance communication and coordination across different units of the government, and this way overcome a silo approach. A VLR also facilitates stakeholder engagement when planning and reviewing policies through the lens of the SDGs. This creates the potential for more inclusive and sustainable urban development, and also as a means to address data issues. I just supported the VRR process in 4 Japanese cities, including those of the 3 pioneer cities in 2018, recognizing the benefits VRR could bring. IGES has been advocating the role of VRRs nationally and internationally as a way to accelerate sustainable transition through SDGs localization. For example, IGES published the Shimokawa method for voluntary local reviews as a guideline to support cities in their effort to develop VRRs inspired by the experience of Shimokawa town. IGES also produced first 2 volumes of the State of the Voluntary Local Reviews released in 2020 and 2021. We also launched the first online platform on VRR, the VRR Lab, in collaboration with the UCLG, ASPAC, and other partner institutions. VRR Lab brings together VRR reports and key VRR publication into one single easy-to-access website. We also contribute to the Asia-Pacific guideline on VRR by UNESCAP, the first guideline on VRRs produced by the UN. Dear participants, we are now facing 2 global challenges: the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and tackling climate change. Both challenges require that we design our socioeconomic system to be more sustainable and resilient. This requires an integrated and inclusive approach. We believe that VRR process can contribute to improving the governance and supporting inclusive transition at the local level by optimal integration of the 3 dimensions of sustainable development, namely economy, society, and the environment. This must be done tackling into consideration the characteristics of the regional concern. Today, we are joined by leading figures in the field of VRR and SDGs localization. I very much hope that the discussions at this session will inspire more cities to take on the challenge of conducting a VRR. By doing so, they can move forward with a more integrative approach to sustainable development. As I conclude my remarks, I would like to congratulate the city of Yokohama on the launch of its first VRR today. I'm delighted that Yokohama City is joining the VRR movement. I just would like to continue to collaborate with the city of Yokohama and our other partners here today. And together we can accelerate the VRR movement to create a sustainable, resilient, and decarbonized Asia and the Pacific. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Takeuchi, for your remark. So then I would like to move on to the panel. So as Professor Takeuchi mentioned, we have 3 distinguished speakers and one video message in this session. So I will, because of time limitation, I would like to jump into the session. So first speaker, I would like to call the first speaker, Dr. Bernadia Irawati Chandradawi, Secretary General of UCLG ASPAC. So Dr. Bernadia, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Minasan, ohayo gozaimasu.
Good morning, everybody.
For me to join this session. First, congratulations to City of Yokohama for releasing the first VLR. This is a very good news. I really like the City of Yokohama very much. So congratulations to City Government of Yokohama and of course the people, citizen of Yokohama. I just want to share here very, very brief about the progress. there is a high interest and growing interest of the local government, cities and local governments in producing the VLR. So far, there are around more than 20 cities and local governments, and the numbers are growing. There will be a new one like Semarang City, as well as Kaohsiung. This is supported by UNSCAP, while Semarang is supported by ADB and UCLG ASPAC. So the number has been growing. And this is very, very interesting to note also that means the cities found benefits of doing these VLRs. So when we see the slides and the second slides here, the benefits are huge. The reasons of the cities in producing the VLRs are different. Some cities, can you go to the next slide? Some cities, yes, some cities want to have more partnerships with local with non-state actors like non-governmental organizations and private companies, and also want to have a more integrated policy making and coordination among the units inside local governments. This is good because there is no SDG unit inside local governments. And also to have more enhanced data collections and increase engagement with civil society, academia, private sectors, and other stakeholders. So it's also used as a communication tools among different level of governments. Like the one we produce for VLR Surabaya has been integrated in the VNR of Indonesia that was submitted a couple months ago. So this is good because they used this VLR of Surabaya as reference, how local governments also do make some actions in the localization of SDGs. And of course, to have this, what I call it, vertical coherence and complementing also what the National Voluntary National Reviews on SDGs implementation. So this is actually what we put also as kind of objectives in which the VLR should be used as a reference for the voluntary national reviews on the SDGs implementation. And the last one is to act as a necessary bridge between cities agencies to break down the silos. So that's the overall benefits of doing a VLR. So as an organization, maybe we can close these slides. That's the only slides I have. So in conclusions, we UCLG ASPAC Secretariat has been supporting cities and local governments in producing these VLRs. And then this also should be aligned with the cities' visions, cities' missions. And then the priorities are different among the cities. Like VLR Surabaya put the priority of 9 SDGs goals, and also included several best practices, including those green economy and waste to energy, as well as a community participation, and how the city handles the COVID. And another one that I like to highlight is that the challenges. There have been a lot of challenges, of course, in producing this VLR. The most challenge faced by the city is data quality and availability of the data. And because this VLR needs to show the progress every year, so this data collection and need for data validation is important. And the other one also, because data is needed, then to ensure the qualitative and quantitative analysis. Second, also the process could be very challenging because there are several methods that have been introduced. Of course, Simokawa and other methods are also available. So, and some local governments face kind of challenging in bringing together different stakeholders in the process as well. So this involvement of non-state actors in some places have been quite challenging that have been faced by city governments. So in conclusions, as UCLG ASPAC, we are ready to continue supporting the cities and local governments in producing VLR. And currently, we have been also working with several cities, including cities in Nepal, for these VLR productions. Then I already mentioned Semarang and Jakarta. Jakarta will be releasing this VLR sometime in December, and they focus on these partnerships among different stakeholders in this tackling COVID-19. So every city unique, every city has capacity to do, every city also has their own priority. So that's I think what I like to share here, Kataoka-san. Of course, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Bernardia-san, for your good overview of the status of the VLR in the Asian Pacific, also the sharing the challenges and opportunities. So maybe I will come back to you the questions later on. Thank you very much. And I would like to move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Mr. Samuddin Ahmed, Regional System Development Consultant, Environment and Development Division of UNSCAP. So the UNSCAP is very good partner of IGES, and also the some leading figure of the VLR movement also. So the Sami-san, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Yatsuka-san, for the introduction, and a very good morning to everyone joining us for this session. As you've already heard from Dr. Takeuchi and Dr. Bernardia, the Voluntary Local Review has gained significant momentum in the past few years for cities and regions to foster SDG localization and demonstrate local government's capacity and commitments. And of course, Japanese cities with support from IGES have been pioneers of the VLR movement, with several VLR reports published already, and a big congratulations to Yokohama City on the launch of their VLR as well. From SCAP, we have been supporting several cities across the region to review local progress to accelerate action for the SDGs, together with our partners from UN Habitat, UNDP, and of course IGES, UCL JASPAC, Urbanized Malaysia, all of whom are also members of the Penang Platform for Sustainable Urbanization. Any discussion on VLRs really is incomplete without really understanding why and how VLRs are actually beneficial for cities. And of course, the previous two speakers have already touched on this a bit. But I would just like to say how a VLR really reveals the standing of a city regarding the SDGs and their targets, and allows the identification of priority areas where actions are most needed. And these actions will intensify to touch upon competencies of different departments, given the growing interlinkages between goals and targets, and really ultimately call for integrated approaches to policymaking. For cities, conducting a VLR can accelerate the uptake of the SDGs across all departments of the administration and even in communities, advocating for increased horizontal and vertical coordination between them. And this, of course, can in turn help to overcome the often silo approach of local governance, as we've heard. Such coordination can also be extended to the management of local finances by aligning local policies with the SDGs and the local budget, which is also planned from a silo approach. This can really streamline municipal budgets and result in increased budget efficiency. However, to maximize their benefits, VLR should really go beyond being a tool to monitor progress towards SDG localization, but rather they should explore innovative forms of local governance by providing several meaningful opportunities for action to accelerate progress on the SDGs, as you can see on the screen here. Speaking of vertical coordination, integration of the VLR with the voluntary national reviews of the VNRs can also serve numerous benefits. As we know, the policy cycle is incomplete if the follow-up and review mechanism does not allow for understanding the challenges, the opportunities, and lessons learned during the implementation phase. So having VLRs integrated within the VNR process can help fill in information gaps, provide opportunities to incorporate more nuanced, disaggregated data, and allow useful lessons and best practices that can potentially be scaled up nationally. Integrating the local and national SDG review processes can also provide space to enhance both horizontal and vertical coordination. So for example, when consolidating inputs from cities and local governments for the VNR in the absence of any formal mechanism, So thereby overcoming pre-existing information silos and opening up new lines of communication. VLR-VNR integration can also broaden stakeholder engagement within the VNR process. So VLRs provide local governments with the opportunity to bring in together more diverse local stakeholders and come up with a collective vision. VNRs, on the other hand, mostly engage stakeholders at the national level. So although some VNRs have in place strong stakeholder engagement mechanisms that reach broader than usual proportion of the population, leveraging local governments would really ensure that no one and no place is left behind. And additionally, VLR-VNR integration could, for cities and local governments in particular, strengthen the legitimacy of local follow-up and review of the SDGs. And this in turn could validate their future requests for support from the national government regarding SDG implementation. I'll stop here. Thank you very much for your time. And of course, a big thank you to the organizers for giving SCAP the opportunity to be here today. I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have on SCAP's work on VLRs at the end of the session. Yes, Gasan, back to you.
Thank you, Sami-san. Thank you very much for your very good, introduction of the VRs. So I think the vertical coordination of national local government is kind of the next challenge for the VRs to promote the SDG implementation at national and local level. Thank you very much, Sami-san. I will come back to you with the questions later on. So next, we will hear the voices from city which did the VRs. That is Shah Alam City, Malaysia. So the first, we got the video message from the mayor of the Shah Alam City, Mr. Datak Sami Ahmed Mansour. So the secretariat, could you show the video from the mayor?
Distinguished moderator, speakers and panelists, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to all. I'm Datuk Zamani Ahmad, Mayor of Shah Alam City Council. Shah Alam is the capital city of Selangor State. Shah Alam City Council is the caretaker of Shah Alam. So to speak, we have the vision in transforming Shah Alam into a vibrant, conducive and renowned city. We are committed to the Sustainable Development Principle since 1998. In this time of uncertainty, there's a fundamental truths that give us hope that together we can do extraordinary things. MBSA also approached the concept of community helping community. Over the past years, the entire world has been coming together to stand up, help out, give back and heal. Whether that's through donation to community, voluntary, helping workers, reaching out to a neighbor to help with groceries, generosity has been helping the entire world get through this global pandemic. Sustainable development needs to be implemented holistically, and all parties are practically involved, be it directly or indirectly. We will coordinate the related Sustainable Development Agenda. Shah Alam has started our VLR journey back at 2020 with SDG Roadmap. Our 5 VLR underlying principle is people, place, prosperity, peace and partnership. At present, various initiatives have been undertaken to showcase our commitment. We have a clear vision to make Shah Alam a thriving, conducive and livable city. Shah Alam City Council will continue to strengthen cooperation with all groups of the community, including stakeholders, developers, universities, residents, industrial players, NGOs and other parties to ensure that the SDGs development agenda in Shah Alam could be implemented holistically. Moving forward, in the improvement of SDGs in Shah Alam, monitoring and evaluation must cut across all goals and targets of the SDGs, assessing the processes of translating policies to the local level. This also includes institutionalized and iterative process on the evaluations of effectiveness of SDGs delivery at the city level. The effectiveness and influence of the SDGs are dependent on their feasibility to be translated into and implemented at the local context. One of the key principles of the SDGs to address this shortcoming is the principle of leave no one behind. As the caretaker of Shah Alam, MBSA playing the coordinating role for national implementation, development planning, and resource mobilization to align the SDGs implementation. It was privileged to be the first city in Malaysia to submit VLR. The combination of challenges, opportunities, and strength has provided a solid ground for us. Now it's time for action at the ground level. We would like to thank the organizer this opportunity. We truly hope that our sharing session is beneficial to you and hope to see you guys again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So now also from Shah Alam, we have Ms. Annie Shazuin Ismail, so who are somehow in charge of the VL development. So Annie, could you elaborate a little bit more on the experience of VLRs?
Thank you, Jessica. Hello, everybody. I'm Amy from Shah Alam City Council, Malaysia. Let me continue to share our journey in VLR. As mentioned by me earlier, we started our sustainable development journey as early as in 1998. But our journey for VLR started actually in 2018 when we were selected to become Malaysia Frontrunner City under IGES program. Thank you, IGES, for this big opportunity. Yes, and this year we managed to submit and present our first VLR in July. Shah Alam is the first city in Malaysia to participate in Malaysia SDG City Network. As the first city in Malaysia to submit the VLR, we work together with Urbanist Malaysia, Ministry of Housing and other government agencies. We are doing it in Malaysia way. We use Malaysian SDGs as a reference. Our framework is exercised in 3 stages before we came out to the VLR.
Okay. Tunggu ya, Mbak ya. Yuk, thank you.
What we learned from our journey, we realized that VLR is a commitment and a challenge to the cities. We need to initiate collective local action and review our city. In order to know where are we need the baseline data. With VLR, we can share to the world and become global attention. I'm sure not many of you here know about Shah Alam City before this. Malaysian mostly knows as by its capital city, Kuala Lumpur. By the way, the beautiful blue mosque of Malaysia is in our city, So do come and visit us. I think most of us here worry about the hustle to gather the data from different stakeholders and agencies. I would say we become more creative to get the engagement with our stakeholders, especially during the pandemic time. We must have the collaborative mechanism. We must go via both the bottom-up approach as well as the top-down approach. Use the vertical integration. We strongly believe city roadmap and VLR are the mechanism for national or country to implement and monitoring SDGs. We must stop doing things in silo things, regardless whether it is in the internal department or among the stakeholders. We need to stop being Mr. Know Everything, especially the government sectors. We really need to be more visible to our stakeholders and our communities in order to get them on board to this beautiful journey for our next generation. I hope with this sharing session, we can learn something together. It is very important to establish the coordination between the reports, and the most important thing is the coordination mechanism between all the agencies and stakeholders. With that, thank you. I pass back to you, Iska. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie, for your real voices from all the real experiences of the VL productions. I think it is very hard to develop such VLRs during the COVID era, but yeah, it's very great to see the Shah Alam, very beautiful, VL report. Thank you very much. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Miyasato, Jun Miyasato, Assistant Director to the Council, Office of Promotion of Overcoming Population Decline and Vitalizing Local Economy in Japan of the Cabinet Office. So that office is promoting the.
ありがとうございます。内閣府
Thank you very much. My name is Miyasato from the Cabinet Office of Japan. I am very grateful for this opportunity. So I would like to explain the Japanese government's initiatives in this matter. Could you pull up the slides, please?
ありがとうございます。こちらですね、我々の取り組んで
This slide shows the national government's initiative, SDGs Future City. Since 2018, the national government has been designating the municipalities as SDG Future Cities based on the efforts to integrate the SDGs into the policies. Among these, we choose about 10 outstanding municipalities each year as the model cities. So we have been designating the future cities every year since 2018, which means that over 124 cities have been selected already as SDG Future City. And for the 10 outstanding municipalities as the model cities, we have been providing subsidies every year to 10 municipalities each year. Now this slide shows the list of SDG indicators. So the future SDGs are selected by the Cabinet Office as well as the task force. And they are developing plans based on the local SDG indicators. As you can see on this slide, the Japanese government has issued this list of local indicators. Every year, the municipalities report on the progress, and we receive feedback from the experts and advice for improvement. So based on this feedback, each municipality makes further improvements, and we can run the PDCA cycle so that the targets can be reached. The model examples, the best case examples from the SDG Future Cities are shared on our website and sent to all the local governments in Japan as information sharing. Last slide, please. This is a result of the survey conducted by the national government to all the local governments in Japan. The graph shows the percentage of Japanese local governments working on the promotion of SDGs. The national government's target is to increase this ratio to 60% by 2024, as you can see at the far right. Currently, we are on progress, and the latest figure is 39.7% in 2020, and we are currently conducting another round of surveys for 2021 at the moment. So, based on the KPIs as shown on the slide, we hope to expand the number of local governments promoting SDGs. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
your presentation. So I think his presentation illustrates how national government supports local government to implement SDGs. Also, this have some framework of monitoring and evaluation. So this is a kind of good practice of the somehow multi-level kind of the coordination of the SDGs. So thank you very much, Mr. Miyasato. So next, I would like to ask Dr. Anthony Pieper, Senior Fellow, Global Economy and Development, Center for Sustainable Development, Brookings Institutions. So Tony, thank you very much for joining us from the late at night. And then you are the kind of the somehow those who are initiate this real movement. So can you share your insights?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and congratulations and kudos to Yokohama on the launch of this voluntary local review. They're a member of the SDG Leadership Cities Network that we launched and facilitate here at the Brookings Institution, which is a global community of practice from cities across the world who are really in the vanguard of pushing forward on sustainable development using the SDGs. And we see the voluntary local review really as a tool by which cities can both convey their commitments on the SDGs, measure their progress, but it's also a platform for city-to-city cooperation and for a global movement, a collective movement, one of solidarity on using local leadership to both improve progress at the local level, but yet collectively make an enormous global contribution to the progress and to what's going to be necessary to actually achieve the SDGs. Just to add a little bit to all the points that previous speakers have made, I think it's really important to continue to keep in mind that the VLR in itself is an innovation. Right? This was not an official part of the SDG architecture. When I sat at the UN as part of the US delegation negotiating the Sustainable Development Goals, we did not envision an official report like this being promulgated at the UN. And so it's really been cities recognizing the opportunity for their leadership. And I think it's important, while there's the seriousness and the rigor of the VLR, and we've heard some about the challenges with data and capacity to be able to take this on, and there's really no SDG secretariat within cities. At the same time, VLRs ought to be able to be undertaken by any city of any size, taking cities where they're at with what they have, because they can be innovative, and it's as much about the process as it is the final product. And the value in that, because it requires a mindset shift. It requires a government to be thinking along three different lines at once: the human and social, the economic and the environmental, and to be thinking outside its own jurisdictions of city government to larger governance with other stakeholders in the community. That's available to all cities, but it does require attention and intentionality and work. But I think what's really exciting about the VLR as a tool is that it offers a common platform really for city-to-city cooperation as well. We saw the growth that was pointed out by a previous speaker, just even regionally, among the number of VLRs in the region. That growth is also reflected globally. And through the community of practice that we run, we see cities of all different sizes, from all different contexts, from different regions, from different countries, being able to come together with a common language, a common tool to be able to exchange their knowledge, their best practices, their innovations, and yes, their challenges in what is very difficult to be able to take on sustainable development and stay within the discipline of development that the SDGs require. But that common language and common tool really is a platform for cooperation amongst cities as peers. It's also a potential platform for development cooperation from cities with higher capacity, with cities that are looking for technical assistance, that are looking for financing, that are looking for new partnerships. And Yokohama has been a leader in this through some of the platforms that it's created with its private sector and others. And I hope we hear a little bit about that in the discussion. But I think the VLR, again, provides that common language, that common platform for that kind of development cooperation to exist, and actually to be able to use resources even from the national government and other peers across the country to engage in that kind of development cooperation. And finally, I think it provides an interesting tool for potential aggregation where cities can come together and then walk together with other partners as a collective. It's interesting to see 12 cities from the UK, for example, starting to aggregate their sustainability plans so that they can go and engage financiers at the scale that that financing is attractive to them, and that frankly the cities are going to need to be able to make progress on the aspirations that they've set. And I think the VLR can be a real tool for that. One thing I'll just end with, we've talked about the possibilities and the challenges of aligning the VLR with the national government voluntary national reviews. I think it's also important to continue to recognize that while it was a big step forward at this year's HLPF to have formal recognition within the communique for the high-level political forum at the UN, to be the VLRs to be recognized, there still isn't an official part within the architecture for VLRs to stand during those proceedings and during all the proceedings that countries themselves are engaging on the SDGs. And so I think there's still one final step as a collective for those VLRs to have their collective voice within that official architecture as well. But congratulations, and I really look forward to continuing the discussion with some of the good questions that have already been posed, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for Tony-san for your very useful insights, and also the somehow much kind of benefits, benefits of the VLRs and then international cooperation. So having said that, thank you. And then I would like to move on to the Mr. Ken Akaoka, Executive Officer for Global Partnership and Network, Office of the City of Yokohama, Representative to Americas. So as the other speaker said, Yokohama City launched the VLR today, and then please react to maybe the Tony-san's comment for the expectation of the Yokohama.
Thank you, Kataoka-san. Thank you, Tony-san. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending the 10th Asia Smart City Conference, and thank you very much for your kind concern, kind attention to a brand new VLR. As we already know today, the power and the effort of the cities across the world are especially important for achieving the SDGs. Today, Dr. Takeharu Yamanaka, Mayor of the City of Yokohama, announces the Voluntary Local Review 2021 Yokohama here at this commemorable conference. This is the first VLR of the City of Yokohama, a report that reviews the status of the SDGs effort by the city, and is a new starting point for further promotion and contribution to the world in the future. Let me explain a few points of VLR in advance of the mayor's declaration. The city of Yokohama is conscious of the SDGs in all measures, and in 2018, we formulated the city's strategy, medium-term 4 years plan, based on the perspective of the SDGs. Also, Yokohama City was selected as one of the first SDGs future cities, such as Mr. Miyasato has mentioned already. The following some examples of efforts and achievements to contribute to the local SDGs. Established Yokohama SDGs Design Center to connect regional issues with companies and universities launched SDGs certification system to help local companies that promote SDGs, promoted various initiatives through public-private partnership, and implemented a public assistance program and a national health insurance program for all citizens. The city of Yokohama has started whiteboard program, the mainstream of this conference, which will solve urban problems mainly in Southeast Asia. As part of this effort, we are about to disseminate information on the VLR to our global partners. This could be city-to-city collaboration, Tony-san said. This VLR is also the starting point for the further international contribution of the city of Yokohama. For further information, please visit our global website. Together with the citizens of Yokohama and the rest of the world, we will continue to make limiting effort toward the global achievement of the SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akaoka, for your presentations. Congratulations again to the Yokohama's launch of the VRs. And also it's kind of encouraging that Yokohama will be the city-to-city collaborations on VRs. So I think Yokohama is a strong partner for VR movement, especially in the East region. Thank you very much. So we are already exceeding time, but we start a little bit late. So we have please allow me the 10 minutes kind of the extension of the session. So we have several questions from the floor, and you have already seen some of them. So the one question is, how avoid to risk increasing the disparities or gap between the BL leading cities, SDG leading cities and non-leading cities. So maybe, the attractiveness of the SDG advanced cities increase. So more people is coming in, but, non-SDG leading cities, they may have some, they are kind of, they are very weak, become weak. So how we, can avoid that kind of disparity. That is one question. So, and then also the maybe after, that kind of thing happens. So, maybe many people's coming in the SDG leading cities. So maybe inside the city, disparity between the, disparity between people will also increase. So how we avoid that kind of things, and how we can do to do with it. So that is one question. So can I ask some of you to respond to disparity issues? So maybe Bernardia-san or Sami-san, Tony-san, do you have any suggestions on that?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. I saw a lot of questions put here in the chat. Maybe before I answer that, maybe I give a little story about this year. When I was in Japan, I think in Kanagawa, somewhere in Yokohama, I was sitting in the cafe, and then the cafe served with, I don't know, made what to call it, the letter there, and show that SDGs implementations, or they know about SDGs. This is great because that means SDGs awareness already reach people, including those in the businesses. And then this is why for us, these disparities, how can we handle those cities that are active and those cities that are not active? We work very closely with the association. The National Association, we have National Association of Cities in Indonesia. There is also MALA. There is also League of Cities in the Philippines. So we have been working closely with them to raise the awareness on this SDGs implementation, and of course with some of the bottlenecks and barriers that they have, including financial capacity, not only about technical capacity. So in the first place, normally how this VLR is developed is shown with our support, ESCAP, of course, IGES, as well as UN Habitat and UCAG ASPAC itself. This is why we produce a guideline at the global level, how the VLR is developed, and with additional training programs. And with those cities, we expect also those cities inspires other cities. When we see this VLR development, most of the cities are coming up with the VLR normally already active in the city-to-city cooperation or active already in the international cooperations. So we have this kind of inspirational program in which the mayors also introduce this VLR and hope the other mayors can also get inspired. But what we do here with the discrepancies is that we also produce what we call it VSR, Voluntary Subnational Review, in which it goes beyond one local government. What we need is that when we're looking at this VNR, not so many VNRs have engaged local governments in the processes, but the number is increasing. Now around 55 of VNR submitted to the United Nations have included local governments in consultations, in participation, but very different levels of this engagement of local governments. So we are now working on the VSR. We have completed VSR Indonesia. We have also planning to have one in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, in as well as in the Philippines, and we are aligning with the VNR submissions. So discrepancies among those cities can be done by inspiration, by motivation, by also having more political commitments from those cities that have differences, and we provide the support. But we are hoping that this VLR is not only one time produced, because this is already becoming a social contract, trust among local governments and different stakeholders. So this should be continued by cities. So there will be a periodical VLR. So I really hope that Yokohama will also have 2 years, submission of the VLR for United Nations side events that we always organize. But I'm really hoping that the ownership of the local governments on the VLR, this is important. So this should be continued, just not only one time VLR is produced. Thank you. Back to you, Katakas.
Thank you very much. So the Sami-san, you quickly, raise the issue of the disparities and also the inclusiveness.
Yeah, sure. So just going through the questions again, maybe I'd like to reiterate what the VLRs are really doing. In a way, it's really allowing cities to tell a story, right, of how well they're doing in terms of their journey towards the 2030 agenda. Similar to how the first generation of voluntary national review reports, where it can often sort of get simplified into presenting a very, very optimistic version of the city's progress. What we can say is it boils it down to being just a beauty contest between cities, which it really is not. The VLR really allows cities to make an in-depth analysis of where they stand, how they're doing, and how they intend to improve on it based on the recommendations that are coming out of the process. For cities that already have disparities in terms of, let's say, population living in slum areas, doing an in-depth VLR would really allow the city to understand what are the reasons for the different disparities there, and take policies, make informed decisions, engage with different stakeholders to make sure, to really try and work on addressing those disparities. Of course, as big cities undertake VLRs and they have their reports coming out, to an outsider, it might just seem that it might be a very good option to just move there. But that's not really the case. We do see smaller cities, very small municipalities also undertaking the VLRs from SCAP side, We are supporting several municipalities across the region do the VLRs because, as Tony had said, it's more than just the report itself. It's the overall process. It's a shift in mindset. It's local governments really trying to own the process, work with different stakeholders, work across departments, and drive the process forward to reach that vision that they have for the 2030 for the year 2030. And yeah, that's just my 2 cents on some of the questions there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, yeah. So the Tony said the participants is asking some disparities of the leading cities and then no known leading cities of the the VRs and SDGs. So how we avoid the no city left behind?
Well, I think it's a great question, and it's an important one. And I think I'll come back to, first off, I think Bernadia had great ideas. Like the VSR, for example, really does provide that kind of a platform. And working through sort of the country level municipal associations and things like that are extremely important. This is a collective movement, though, as well. While this is important, as Sami was saying, for the localities themselves and to be able to set their targets and make their progress, it also is a platform for solidarity. And I think this is actually where Yokohama is at the leading edge, because there's city-to-city cooperation, and we do see that through lots of city networks where cities who generally, to Bernadia's point, they're generally in the vanguard already. They're usually participating and inspiring and pushing each other. But I think where Yokohama's also been a bit different is to say, okay, we are a city with certain capacities and certain successes. We can share that and provide technical assistance and even bring in other partners to enable cities who might be at a different part of the continuum and reach out to cities across our borders even to be able to participate, because we're part of this global movement, and it's a movement that has to be one of solidarity. We're not all going to succeed unless we all succeed, right? Like one of us isn't going to succeed on our own. This is a network. This is a global and a regional push. And so I think the VLR provides the opportunity for that kind of thinking to also come out, and for cities to be challenging themselves on what they can do on that as well. And I think it's an important question for it to be top of mind. And I saw another question in there about civil society organizations in the process of making VLR. I think that's extremely important for there to be the kind of voice at the local level that's going to be really important inputs to a serious VLR. That same kind of partnerships can also take place sort of at a city-to-city level or global level as well. Yokohama is doing it with its platform on the private sector. Civil society organizations could also be helpful in that. It is a way, again, to create this network of partnerships and of progress where people are sharing based on their comparative advantages.
Okay, thank you very much. It's great, the answer. Thanks. And then also so Annie, I have a question. So there is somehow the question about the how to ensure inclusiveness and also the CSO's involvement in the process of VLRs. Can you quickly share the how Shah Alam try to ensure more people involved in the VLR process, or the role of CSO? So could you elaborate that point in 1 or 2 minutes?
Okay, thank you. Basically, we started with Local Agenda 21. So then back then we built up the strong relationship between the stakeholders, the community, and also the Shah Alam City Council. So we use that platform actually to get more people to involve in our VLR, because VLR is something to report, but what we have done is more than that. It's not just in a one-day program. We started in starting in 2000. So we collaborate all the stakeholders, all the important people from the field to get their inputs and get them on board together. So the VLR is something to be proud of, something to be shared and to be telling everybody what we have done. So I always tell them that we need to report because we need people to know what we've been doing. So in that case, more people coming to give, to collaborate and to give partnership with Shah Alam. And we work together for the Sustainable Development Goal. I think that's all, Suka.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. So I think the time is coming, but the finally maybe can I ask Miyasato-san about the some questions about the somehow the object somehow the debut how debut can be objective from the scientific perspective. So the cabinet office has the evaluation and monitoring kind of the process for the SDG future cities. Do you have any kind of the how to ensure objectiveness in the branch review of the SDG future cities? Do you have any comment, suggestion, things?
Thank you very much for the question. Maintaining objectiveness is very challenging. However, for the future city, as well as in selecting the model municipalities, the cabinet office serves as a secretariat. However, the selection process itself is based on a clear set of criteria, and we are not at all involved in the selection process. It is done by outside experts. So for the future cities, the Japanese government can maintain a certain level of objectiveness, I believe, by having the experts with criteria. I believe that setting up the selection criteria is essential in this process. Last year, decarbonization or carbon neutrality was newly added as one of the evaluation criteria. So, based on the objectives of the Japanese government, looking at the changing global environment, and to promote cities to proactively engage in these social and environmental issues, the Japanese government conducts various deliberations in changing or upgrading the selection criteria. I'm not sure if I was able to answer all the questions, but this concludes my remarks. Thank you very much.
This is external review. So external experts with various background is the review and the monitoring process. So I think the now cabinet office tried to bring the experts in the monitoring and evaluation. That is kind of a great support for the local governments to have some objectiveness of their policies. So thank you very much. So I think the time is coming. So if the Mr. Akaoka, do you have any final words from Yokohama as an organizer? Or expectation? Do you have any any comments? Final comments?
はい、それではちょっと失礼して日本語で。
So allow me to speak a little bit in Japanese. Well, this time we're having the 10th Asia Smart City Conference. And this is something that the Yokohama City has been supporting all the time, working together with various cities in Asian region to tackle with the global cities. As a leading city in city of Yokohama, which is which has overcome the various challenges such as the decreasing the population and other problems. And we wanted to really share our experiences. And based upon this VLR, we'd like to continue to work together with cities in Asia to promote the VLR from the perspective of the SDGs enhancement. What is important here is to get the engagement from the private companies. So in that regard, the collaboration stands for city-to-city collaboration and also the public and private collaboration. So there are two types of collaborations, and I'd like to solicit your continued support going forward. Thank you.
Your encouraging words, it's very important to bring private sector in the kind of process of the implementation of the SDGs at local level. So thank you very much. There is a lot of questions to be answered, but the time is time is up. So I'm sorry for not taking all questions. So, but the questions is very useful for us to think about the future VRs and then also VR movements for city-to-city collaboration. So thank you very much for all speakers for your sharing your insights and experiences. I think this is a good start for us to discuss about VRs, including some Yokohama framework of the city's collaboration. So I want to continue this network and then promote VRs in the Asian Pacific together. So thank you very much for your participation. So the session is closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers and Ms. Kataoka for moderating the discussion. Thank you very much for your valuable discussion. This is the end of the Thematic Session 3 by Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. Voluntary Local Review, VLR of SDGs, Accelerating Transformation of Cities. The next session will start with greetings from organizers and keynote speech. And we have a good news. For the virtual exhibition, which was limited to pre-registered people, in response to many inquiries, we have decided to open up the space for all the participants in ASCC. Please enter from the upper bottom virtual exhibition in green. The 6-digit passcode that is required to enter the virtual room is already shared in the email circulated from ASCC Secretariat earlier today. We will now take a break for about 17 minutes. The conference starts again in 17 minutes at 1:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time.